building you see here in the background is the so-called Reichstagsbuilding. It's a place where the German parliament meets, and today is the 18th day of January 2014. You see here people protesting against GMO. Exactly 110 years ago they were meeting here to discuss about what had happened in a place some 5,000 miles away. They called German Southwest Africa. Today it's Namibia. There, the tribe of the Herero, which has been the most important ally to the Germans, had risen on a few days before, on January 12, 1904, against the German occupiers because of the increasing oppression and the unacceptable conditions the Germans were forcing upon them and the rest of the African population. The first Germans to arrive at Namibia were missionaries. Though they were treated with skepticism initially, they were received following the traditional principle of hospitality. They connected well with the people, gave classes to the sons of the elite, and worked as diplomats when there were conflicts between different tribes and so on. They were followed by merchandisers, as the missionaries had gained the trust of the people. The next whites were also well received, and the first merchandisers arrived with their ship at the bay, and they bought the bay and a territory of about 300 square miles, paying with 200 rifles and 100 pounds of gold. They declared it their private property and raised the flag of the German Empire. They were followed by surveyors, by officials, by settlers, all received with great frankness because of the good impression the missionaries had made. Finally, they built up their army, and the Namibian people didn't understand, completely misunderstood what was going on. They considered the Germans as their possible friends. They had no idea what the real goals were. Protection contracts were signed, so in case a chief had problems with another tribe and he couldn't do it on his own, the Germans helped him. They saw this as something very positive. In exchange, they signed contracts, gave the land to the Germans, gave cattle to the Germans. The fraudulent merchandisers sold them alcohol, weapons, ammunition, and many useless things. And very soon the people were indebted, the common people as well as the elites. So they had to sign papers. The whites made them sign papers, promissory notes, which had no meaning for them at this point. For them it was this paper had no power at all. Traditionally, a contract could be renegotiated if the circumstances had changed, and it was something fluid. So if you could not fulfill a contract, well, you meet again the person you made it with, and you talk about it, and you find some solution. But of course, this was not possible with the Germans. Also, when they sold land to the Germans, this meant to them that the Germans also had the right to share this land with them. It did not mean that this was from now on the property of the Germans, because they did not know private property at all. There it was all based on common ownership. The pasture regions, they did not belong to anybody. Everybody could use it depending on where the rain fell, on what season they were in. the best grass was that they moved their cattle. But of course the Germans started to build up fences, borders, put armed guards there to protect their borders, and if cattle entered their territory, their private property as they considered it now, this cattle was confiscated. And if someone followed the cattle to move it out again, they shot them or they put them to jail, same as they did with other people who simply crossed their territory. This was not allowed anymore, so this was a legal system forced upon the population, which had nothing to do with their understanding of collective rights, justice and solution of conflicts. Anyway, it took some decades until the Africans really understood that the continuous encirclement by the whites was threatening their existence. And some tribes understood this earlier than others. A tribe that understood it early was the Nama. The Herero understood it later. And the Herero became aware when the colonial government, inspired by the Indian reservations, told them that from now on they would have to live in reservations. They knew that this was the end of their existence. They could not continue to exist with their cattle herds in a reservation. This was impossible. So, but there was a problem. The chief, the supreme chief of the Herero, was intimate friend of the German governor. He had been in Berlin, received by the German emperor, and he received a good payment every month to keep him loyal to the Germans. And there was a complex network of dependency between the Germans and the Herero. The supreme chief was Samuel Herero, and he had become chief helped by the Germans. The Germans had helped him to vacate rivals out of his way so he could become chief of the tribe. And the Hereros were the strongest and most influential and the best organized tribe there. So there was a dependency from both sides of this relation. But finally his people went to the chief and told him, or you or you give the order to uprise, or you will no longer be our chief. So he gave the order to uprise. The Herero had been the most important allies of the German, and from that moment on they were the biggest danger to their dominion there. When Governor Leutwein with his troops went to the south to knock down uprising of the tribe of the Nama, Herero and his people attacked on January 12, 1904. It took only a few days and the Herero warriors had occupied total central Namibia. But they did not occupy the military bases of the Germans. The Germans had entrenched there and were waiting for reinforcement. The Herero were in superior in number, were highly motivated but very bad equipped. They only had normal rifles and traditional weapons, while the Germans had cannons, modern grenades and machine guns. Even in the battles they were most successful in, the Herero lost hundreds of their warriors. Nevertheless, they fought during 8 months with great bravery and determination until the last decisive battle at the Waterberg. They had reunited all their forces there. This meant everybody who was not in prison and who managed to get to this place. It was an open field, 60,000 to 80,000 people, the whole tribe, the warriors, women, old people, children, their cattle or the animals. It's until now a mystery why they did it, why the chief gave the order to meet there. At night, thousands of fires were burning, and it was very easy for the Germans to encircle them there. At that point, Governor Leutwein had been called back. He was said he was considered too soft with the Herero. They put another man in command of the troops, General Lothar von Trotha. He was famous for his brutality and his mercilessness. He had gained this reputation in East Africa and in China. He had clear that he wanted to destroy the rebel tribes in rivers of blood. He also had given the order that captured Herero males were to be executed, while women and children were to be driven into the desert, where their death was to be certain. So the Herero knew whom they were facing. Something maybe they were trying to make him offer for peace. It is known that at this point Leutwein, the former governor, the former friend of Samuel Herero, came back and disputed with General Lothar von Trotha. He wanted this to stop. He said, we need the Herero as workers for the cattle, for a lot of things, but he had no power anymore, and Lothar von Trotha said well, the only solution for him was to exterminate them all. He paid bounty to the soldiers for the heads of the Herero. So the Germans saw them encircled them, only left them the option to go into the desert, and started shooting with their cannons at the camp. Finally they had to move back, they had to hurry away. A lot could be said what happened there in these days. The Germans attacked. The battle there was from August 11 to August 12, 1904. Then they moved into the desert. Everybody who was hurt, who could not run fast enough, who fall back, was shot by the Germans. And of course, the warriors needed more food and water because they had to fight. So the women, the elder, the children stayed back and were finally begging to the Germans for water, for food, but the Germans fulfilled their orders they had been given to not make any prisoners and not let anyone survive. So anyway, there were Herero prisoners made before, and so very few of them managed to escape through the desert. It was part of the Kalahari Desert. Some managed to go to Angola, and at the end there were 17,000 prisoners left. They were put into concentration camps. The Germans built concentration camps in different locations of the country. That they also made medical experimentation on the prisoners. One doctor who made their experiments, injecting all kinds of stuff into them and then making an autopsy and seeing what effects it had made and things like that. One of these doctors was later a professor and teacher of Joseph Mengele at the university where Mengele studied the famous angel of death of Auschwitz. So there's a continuity of the experiments made in Namibia and the experiments made later in the concentration camps. The half of the prisoners, which were Herero and Nama, died there from exhaustion and diseases. The most strongest, 3,000 of them, were sold as slaves to the white farmers or forced to work in mines, finally died. Some prisoners were at police stations where they faced the same destiny, mainly like the Herero that had been fighting the Germans and that were driven in the desert. They were imprisoned in subterranean cells, closed with a grid above, and in the cells they starved, they died of thirst, or they drowned, then the cells were flooded. When a prisoner struck out his hand begging for water or something, it was the normal reaction of the German policemen was to cut the hand off, and anyway they were exposed to all kinds of inhuman treatment by the German police. 2 months later, the German emperor gave the command to cancel the extermination of the people there, because the news had come to Germany, and the people did not like that. Other countries, Great Britain, knew about what was happening, and they so put a bad light on Germany. They gave the orders to stop this, but it continued. Trotta said yes, okay, but he continued his politics until the next governor came in 1905, and he said he would only accept to become governor if Trotta would leave this country forever. And so it was. He finally left Africa and never came back. So I think it was in 2008 or 2009 when a High Commission from Namibia arrived here at Berlin to recover the 20 skulls of about 3,000 skulls the Germans had brought to Berlin, to examine them and to demonstrate that they were a superior race and that the owners of the skulls were animals. So during the ceremony of this high-ranking Namibian commission, together with German ministers, the highest representative of the German government just walked out in the midst of this ceremony. She later said that it was because she heard booing from the audience, and security personnel said that part of the audience was hostile and they thought it would be best to bring her out. Well, I think that after Namibians, after 100 years of suppression, exploitation, humiliation and domination by the whites, the relation have to be marked by deep alienation, by distrust, and there are surely many awkward feelings. So to behave like that, to just walk out and leave the Namibian minister in such a ridiculous situation, it's just another example of the German destructive white chauvinism they are showing. It was the goal of the German commanders who had been put in charge to exterminate the rebel tribes. All men, women and children who fell into German hands were mercilessly put to death. Though the Herero respected the lives of the German women and children, if they found them, they escorted them to missionary stations. They only fought against the German men. It was the goal of the Germans to exterminate them all. Still, they called the Hereros, they called them Bavarians, and they saw themselves as a superior race, fire ethics, and civilized people. If you want to know more about what they did, I don't want to include any pictures or or more details, you can easily find it up. If you look it up on the internet, just write Herero and Namaqua genocide and you will find more things. It was also interracial marriage was prohibited, and children of mixed relations were the priority objects for medical experimentation. In 2012, this is the last news, German government about this, they again said that they do not see this as a genocide. They say they accept historical and moral responsibility, but it was not a genocide. Though it was the goal of the commanders to exterminate the tribes, and the United Nations Whitaker report classifies this as a typical genocide. Still, it is not to the Germans, and until 2004 they were not even disposed to apologize for what has happened. This has changed now, but still they made it clear officially here in this building, it is not genocide. It has not been there. That's, yeah, okay.